Three news stories for you. Firstly, viewers, Ethiopian Federal Supreme Court has released a statement about the release of prisoners Jawar, Beklegar, Hamza Burana, Sabat Naga, and others. The Supreme Court has provided details about why these prisoners were released, which process was adopted, charges have been dropped against them or not, who requested that the charges be dropped against them. A detailed statement of Supreme Court viewers. Secondly, Gata Chaureda has released a statement on his Twitter account about the visit of Obasanjo, who visited Mekelle yesterday. In yesterday's video, I told you about the presence of Obasanjo in Mekelle. In previous visits of Obasanjo, I think he has visited Mekelle thrice so far. After Obasanjo's visits, dawn strikes happened on Mekelle. But Tigray leaders did not talk about that. But yesterday, Gata Chaureda implied that somehow Obasanjo's visit and dawn strike on Mekelle were connected, especially yesterday's incident. Lastly, viewers, Herman J. Cohen, who is a retired US diplomat, has spoken about ongoing Ethiopia-Tigray conflict. He is proposing that TPLF should cease to exist, that TPLF leaders should be sent into exile, they should be granted amnesty, and TPLF is now a threat to the people of Tigray. We'll have a detailed look at his statement. He says that Ethiopian government has overwhelming advantage militarily now. That is why TPLF cannot survive. Firstly, viewers, Ethiopian Federal Supreme Court has released a statement about the release of politicians like Jawar, Bekele Garba, Sabat Nag, and others. The Supreme Court says that public prosecutor of Ethiopian Ministry of Justice requested that in 3 case files charges be dropped against the accused. So, it has been requested by the state, by the government, that charges be dropped against against some individuals in 3 case files. The 3 case files are a public prosecutor versus Jawar Mohammed, public prosecutor versus Skandar Naga, public prosecutor versus Debretsion Gabriel Mikhail. In Skandar Naga and Jawar Mohammed case files, charges have been dropped against all accused. But in Debretsion Gabriel Mikhail's case file, charges have been dropped against 6 individuals only. I've been hearing from some Amhara news sources that charges have been dropped against Debretsion Gabriel Mikhail. No, it's not correct. In the case file of Debretsion Gabriel Mikhail, several individuals are involved. Some news sources were reporting yesterday that charges had been dropped against Debretsion Gabriel Mikhail, Tigray's president. No, the Supreme Court statement is very clear. It is telling us that charges have been dropped against 6 individuals in Debretsion Gabriel Mikhail case file. There are several other accused in Debretsion Gabriel Mikhail case file against whom charges still stand. So, charges have been dropped. Can these charges be reinstated, restored legally? In a public speech 2 days ago, PM Abiy said charges have been dropped against released prisoners, but they have not been granted amnesty. So that is why they should behave in an appropriate manner. The charges can be restored too. It means that the prisoners' charges against them can be restored. And secondly, viewers, on what grounds these charges have been dropped? Have they been found innocent? No. Charges have been dropped on the ground that these prisoners are going to be part of national dialogue. So, for peace and reconciliation, for their participation in peace and reconciliation efforts, charges have been dropped. It's not that Ethiopian Ministry of Justice is requesting that charges be dropped because they've been found innocent. No, their innocence has not been established, neither by the prosecutor nor at the court. So they have been set free because they are going to be part of national dialogue. Now, secondly, viewers, Olusegun Obasanjo was in Mekelle yesterday. I told you about that in a video. Then late last night, Getachew confirmed the presence of Obasanjo in Mekelle. He commended Obasanjo for continuing his mediation efforts. At the same time, he said that immediately after the departure of Obasanjo from Mekelle, a dawn strike happened. Is it a coincidence? It's not the first time that dawn strike has happened immediately after the departure of Obasanjo. It has happened a few weeks ago too. So Tigray-backed some Tigray activists have been accusing Obasanjo that somehow his visits help in provision of intelligence to Ethiopian government forces. That is why dawn strikes happen immediately after his departure from Mekelle. Now, dawn strikes are happening across Tigray, viewers. A few hours ago, Tigray government officials confirmed a dawn strike in Hivane, which is in southeast Tigray. So, one dawn strike is in Hivane, southeast Tigray. The other one in northwestern Tigray, in Dadebet town a few days ago. The third one in western Tigray, Mesabre. You see, Mesabre, Dadebet, Hivane. These three places are in three zones of Tigray: eastern Tigray, and southern Tigray, northern Tigray, and western Tigray. So drones are carrying out drone strikes and air strikes are being conducted across Tigray. The dawn strike on Hivane is said to be on a church. Tigray-backed sources say that a church was targeted and 2 civilians have been killed. Ethiopian government-backed news sources say that only TPLF members, TDF fighters are being targeted who are using churches, schools, factories as sanctuaries. Now, lastly, viewers, Herman J. Cohen is a former US diplomat. He has served as Assistant Secretary for African Affairs of the US State Department. He is around 90, I think. Yes, he is around 90. He's retired. He tweets about ongoing Ethiopia-Tigray conflict because he has worked in this region for several years. He is now proposing that TPLF should cease to exist for the safety of the people of Tigray. He says that militarily, Ethiopian government has overwhelming advantage, and Tigray People Liberation Front cannot counter Ethiopian government forces. So Tigray leaders should be granted amnesty, TPLF leaders, and they should be sent into exile. Well, a few months ago, Herman J. Cohen was saying that Ethiopian government was not in a position to confront Tigray forces. So it should come to negotiating table. Now he is proposing dismantling of TPLF. My analysis is that the overwhelming military advantage that Herman J. Cohen is talking about is only due to drones. If you put drones out of this equation, I don't think that Ethiopian government forces have overwhelming military advantage. Without drones, we know that what was happening on the ground. Tigray forces were marching towards Addis Ababa. No human wave attacks, no other weaponry was working. But when drones started their operation, suddenly Tigray forces were pushed on the back foot and they were pushed towards Tigray. Only difference is drones. It's not that Ethiopian government forces have overwhelming advantage. And now it's difficult to distinguish between TPLF and people of Tigray. It's difficult. It's due to Ethiopian government's policies that people of Tigray and TPLF, it would be difficult to distinguish between them, to separate them. I am not a supporter of TPLF. But problem is that there is no other alternative significant political force in Tigray. When there is no alternative, how can you think that people of Tigray will reject TPLF? Ethiopian government could not create any political alternative in Tigray. And then its policies led to the development that people of Tigray were pushed to back TPLF. Now you want TPLF that it should cease to exist. It cannot happen. It can happen in future, it might happen, but not now. People of Tigray now believe that TPLF is fighting for them. That is why I don't think that they would want TPLF to be dismantled. Herman J. Cohen's analysis, sometimes his analysis is not based in reality. That is what I would say. And militarily, Tigray is being defended. Tigray forces are defending Tigray. Amhara forces, they tried to take back Koromelamata, they could not. Tigray forces still in control of Ediarke. It's not that they have lost militarily completely. Just one difference, and that is combat drones. One game changer between Tigray forces and Ethiopian government force. Thank you.